What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Always on Guard here with Team SWARTZ. I'm Lewis, your host with the most, and I have a guest for you today. I'm going to be introducing to you in a moment Sergeant Cento. He enlisted through our recruiting office here out of Manhattan as a full-time college student, as an 11 Bravo infantryman. I, by day, am a full-time recruiter and a part-time drill sergeant. And on my off time, I like to dabble here on YouTube. So I post a ton of Army basic training tips, recruiting, and other Army-related videos. Today, I'm going to bring it on to you. Like I said, let me introduce you to him right now. Sergeant Cento.
What's going on, Sergeant?
Not too much, man. So you're in Virginia now, right?
Yes, I made the transition out of New York before COVID hit, fortunately enough. So I'm down here in Virginia doing my thing. I'm working out of Quantico now. So it's been interesting. The South, a lot different than New York. It's a lot slower, but the defense community is great down here. The military is great down here. It's a huge hub for everything that's going on in the world. So it's been pretty good so far. I miss New York, but just chugging along.
What do you miss most about New York?
People just function differently in New York. Coming out of there, you are 100 miles an hour all the time. You learn to embrace that kind of lifestyle. And coming down here, you got to really slow things down because people just don't function that way. So you're a little more rough around the edges coming from New York. And everyone's like, why are you so mad all the time? Like, what are you so aggravated about? I'm like, no. I was like, this is just the way we are up there. And I grew up in New Jersey.
The light just turned green. It's a long, skinny pedal on the right. Punch it.
Yeah, I mean, if you hit somebody on the sidewalk in New York, they're ready to throw down and get into a fist fight right there. Like whether they're in a three-piece suit or whether they're on a jog here in Virginia, they'll stop and have a full-blown conversation and offer you food or something. It's a different world. So it's been great, though. The transition's been great.
So those of you that are tuning in right now, this is Sergeant Cento. He started his military career here in the New York Army National Guard as an infantry soldier, and eventually transitioned to Virginia. He works as a DoD civilian, if I'm not mistaken, doing some pretty awesome stuff, which we'll get to in a second. And he's now actually in the process of going into the Army Reserve as an intel analyst. So if you have any questions about infantry, not so much about military intelligence yet, because he's not there yet, but he's got some pretty interesting stories and things that he's doing with his life right now that I thought would be valuable to you as my viewer, who want to know how to embrace the suck and how to leverage your military career for civilian opportunities and such. But do me a favor, post down in the comment section where you're tuning in from, and that would be greatly appreciated. Excuse me here. So this first half hour is going to be him talking, kind of like an interview, and then we're going to open it up for a Q&A session. So get your questions in early. I'll answer the recruiting related questions, and he can answer anything you want to know about the National Guard life, things of that nature, anything dealing with infantry, whatever, when you discuss it. So we'll ask questions as we go on. So what made you join the Army National Guard, say over the Army Reserve, when you first enlisted with us in our office?
So like you said, Sergeant, I was in college and I always knew I was going to serve. I always wanted to. I have family and friends that were serving in the military. There were veterans that I was going to school with that were still in the Guard. And I actually met one of them who's still a huge influence on my life. And he's one of my best friends. He was actually serving with the 369 Sustainment Brigade. And he came off of active duty, serving with the 101st Airborne. And we had the same classes together. So him and I were kind of going back and forth. And I remember picking up the phone one day and I'm like, oh, the reserves don't have infantry, because I wanted tactical experience, because I always wanted to go into federal law enforcement. I always wanted to be in the defense community. It just seemed like something that was always an interest to me. And I enjoyed working out and it just fit my lifestyle and I wanted to be well-rounded. And again, I was in the middle of my degree at the time. I was going through school. I was still trying to figure everything out. I'm like, you know what? I'm applying to these internships. I'm not getting it. I really want to get something that's kind of going to help me get to the next level. What's that thing that's going to separate me from just the average college student? So I remember picking up the phone and just Googled the recruiting office. And I remember speaking to some recruiters, and the process, one thing led to another. I got the paperwork. I sat down with the mentor, who's one of my best friends. He methodically went through it with me, said, hey, this is what to expect. This is what you're going to be doing. And the infantry is great. I looked at the pipeline. I tried to figure out a way to fit it in with school. I spoke with the recruiters, kind of told them the situation, and I was like, look, I'm a full-time student. I have a massive course load. I was studying economics with a concentration in military studies, a little bit of foreign policy. So it was a lot, and there is a lot of math. There was a lot of just different stuff going on at the time. So I made it work, reached out to the recruiter, and decided to go to Fort Hamilton and enlist. And after that, RSP. I had no idea what RSP was. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, you have to report to drill coming up. And I'm like, wait, I didn't even go to basic training yet. And they're like, yep, we have drill this weekend and you're showing up. And I'm like, well, roger that. I have no idea what that is, but I'm down. Like, let's go. So I remember showing up, and everything is just history from there. And I am a huge advocate for RSP. And it's funny because being on that side of it and then going through the process and then being an instructor on the other side of it, it's I've gotten to see both sides of the spectrum. I've been able to perceive things as both being a recruit, a soldier, and an instructor. So, and again, I'm just an average dude that went through the process, that came out on the other side of it. So in terms of giving insight, if you guys have any questions, leave them below, and I'll answer any questions in terms of the in-processing of how I enlisted and my first drill at RSP. And I'll never forget it. First time getting dropped. It was, you got your battle buddies to your left and right, and it was definitely a suck fest, but it was one of the best things that I've gone through. Still to this day, I think it's been one of the most beneficial things, and there's a reason why National Guard guys usually get awards when they go to basic training and their MOS schools. So it's
yeah. So those of you who don't know what the RSP is the Recruit Sustainment Program. So when you join the Army National Guard, you're automatically in paid status, 1. 2, like he was just saying, 1 week in a month until you ship out to Army basic training, you will be required to attend these RSP drills where we get you, hopefully, mentally and somewhat physically prepared for Army basic training, or at least give you the mental fortitude to know what to expect, right? So not only are we talking about what you'll be going through at Army basic training, but we have people that come back from training, which we refer to as battle handoffs, who talk about their experiences, especially more so during the blue phase, so that instead of telling you what my experience was in 2001 or his and whatever, you're getting it straight from the people, straight from the training house, and expressing everything that they went through. But we do everything, but not limited to what you do from basic training. Not everything, but what you can do during these drill weekends, but at a much watered down version, more like an introduction to what you're gonna expect. But go ahead, carry on. So once you did the RSP, all that stuff.
So I remember going through RSP, and a lot of people lose the ideology and the fundamentals of what the Recruit Sustainment Program is. And it is to drill in the basic fundamentals of what you need to expect no matter what MOS you are going to. That was one of the greatest things about our RSP in New York, was that we had such a well-rounded group going to different areas. However, we all were drilled in with the same fundamentals. And I remember getting down to Fort Benning, which is, for you guys that don't know, Fort Benning, Georgia is where all the infantry 11 Bravos go, along with a lot of the cavalry, scouts, and armor units. It's the home of the infantry. It's the only place that infantry goes. You go through one station unit training. So you go through basic training, and then you go through infantry school. It's all kind of connected. And when I got there, you had guys that were getting ready to go through active duty that enlisted maybe a week ago, and they're calling captains, staff sergeants, they're calling lieutenants, specialists. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're getting dropped left and right. And the biggest thing was, you guys lose as a team, you win as a team, and you suck as a team. And if they screw up, you will screw up, because you are only as strong as your weakest link. And it's the same thing when you get to your unit, the same thing when you get down range. You guys are dragging whoever is in last place. It doesn't matter. So you got to fight as a pack. So the National Guard guys, all coming from RSP, we're like, holy cow, we got to get these guys whipped into shape, because we're suffering for it too. And I spent the last 5, 6, 7, 8 months in RSP doing my due diligence, and here I am suffering for it. So all the RSP and college dudes that were going in the Guard were like, all right, let's whip these guys into shape real quick. So we we're all on the same page here, and everyone gets online, and we don't get dropped anymore. It was a rough couple weeks for sure, but it was great. And I think getting to the training site, one thing I do want to highlight is I was in the 3rd female integrated infantry school class ever in the history of the United States Army. And that was another really interesting thing. I know it's pretty controversial, and I won't get into it too much because there's no reason to get political. But at the end of the day, guys, whether you're black, white, purple, green, male, female, it doesn't matter. The standard is the standard. And whether I go down, he, she, it, whoever it is goes down, you're going to have to carry them out. You don't leave anybody behind. You guys all have the same mission set. You all have the same objective. And when I got there, it was very apparent that you guys were going to win as a team and lose as a team. Didn't matter what you were doing. And we all graduated together. And some of them were studs. We had some really good ones. We had one girl who was an MMA fighter, and man, getting in the combatives ring with her was quite the workout. So she was definitely solid. And, you know, you definitely learn from people. So it doesn't matter. Definitely keep an open mind. I think that's the other thing with RSPs, be open-minded. And there might be the smallest little things that will make a difference in your life when you get to training. It might help you embrace being away from home. It might make you a better shooter. It might make you a better communicator. It might help you help someone else. So just embrace everything, keep an open mind. Don't get tunnel vision for what RSP is or what basic training is. You got to look at it and perceive it for what the overall growth and development that you can get out of it will be. So in terms of RSP, just take everything you can, suck all the knowledge in.
I think what makes ours pretty cool, and at least for the New York City area, is that we're a very diverse group. Obviously, because we're in New York City, different ethnic backgrounds, different countries, you know what I'm saying? Languages, cultures. So we're very well blended around here in New York City. So when we send our soldiers to training, it's not as much of a culture shock as somebody else who's been from like Wichita, Kansas, and they've never seen a black person before. And they're just like astonished at looking at the color of the skin and like, can I touch it, and ask stupid, inappropriate questions like that. But yeah, so what made you choose 11 Bravo Infantry?
So I started looking, and it was a combination of two things. It was a shorter MOS than some of the other ones. 68 Whiskeys have a very long pipeline. For those that you don't know, that's a combat medic. Intelligence has a extremely long pipeline, and some of the intelligence groups, they will not actually even allow you to go directly into the pipeline. They will have to train you first before you get to your unit, before you go on to your specialty schools. So I wanted a combat job, which is the reason why I chose the Guard over the Reserves, because the Reserves do not have infantry. The National Guard was willing to work with me while I was in school, and I was able to get the tactical experience, go to training, go to basic training, go to infantry school, turn around and go right back to school and finish my degree, get into my unit and start training. And that was one of the best things that the National Guard offered me, was the flexibility, yet still the high operational tempo. And in New York, there's always something going on. You have SAD, you have AGR, you have all sorts of units. You have the 10th Mountain Division, which guys are always getting attached to up at Fort Drum. You have Fort Hamilton, where SAD often runs out of JFK. So for you guys that don't know, SAD is the State Active Duty Force. There's a counterterrorism unit and a counter-drug unit that protects the city and their hubs, whether it's the bridging, tunnels, ports. Sometimes you'll see them walking around the train stations. You'll see all the guys in uniform. And it's a really great opportunity to get some good hands-on training, really good experience, very good resume builder. I know a bunch of guys that got their clearances, their security clearances, which for those of you that want to go into government positions, if you can get your clearance through the National Guard, absolutely do it. I got my secret clearance through the Guard, and it really helped me get my Department of Defense job, which I'm in now. So it's definitely something to be aware of and pay attention to. And 11 Bravo, I mean, everybody wants to do the cool guy stuff. Everybody wants to run around with night vision in the middle of the night, shooting stuff and doing all the cool stuff. And with the cool side of that, you also have to embrace the suck of put your 100-pound rucksack on and you have to go. And it's one of the greatest yet grueling things that you will do. But when you finish, it is worth every second of what you went through. And I went to Fort Benning in the summer. So all of you listeners that have been out to that part of the world of the United States, it is hot as hell in the summer. And coming from New York and New Jersey, I was not accustomed to that weather, like at all, and or the wildlife. And I remember coming back, and the head of RSP now, Master Sergeant Sabato, I remember seeing him, and he's like, "What was the worst thing about it?" And I was like, "Honestly, Master Sergeant, I'm like, it was not the training. Like, I loved it. It was the weather and the wildlife trying to kill you out there. It was like, it was hot as hell." And he's like, "Yep, definitely. It's a great time. You will make friends, and you will meet people and from all walks of life, from different parts of the world. And like I said, again, all of that goes out the window really quick, because you win as a team, you lose as a team, you fight as a team, you get crushed as a team, and you will have friends for the rest of your life. I still talk to guys that I went to basic training with, and you never know where you're going to end up in life either, because I came here in Virginia from New York, and next thing you know, there's like 5 guys that I went to infantry school with that are like around the same area. So we're like, holy cow. And you sit around and you're talking about all the crazy stories, and it's just a good time. It is really something else to join the military and to serve, and even in RSP. And I think for me, one of the turning points that RSP really translated into the military was, for any of you listeners that decide to join, there will get to a point where you will stay in the National Guard and you will see good, bad, and indifferent. You will live and die by your friends. And when I got back from my duty, my station in Georgia, finishing boot camp and coming back, our RSP actually lost a soldier, someone who I was close with. And during the recruit sustainment program, you will take a physical fitness test and in preparation to leave. So during my recruit sustainment process, I always used to run my 2-mile with the same individuals because I suck at running. That was not my thing. Push-ups and sit-ups, no problem. And we always had the studs that would take off during the run, but that would beat it during the push-ups. And unfortunately, and I know Sergeant SWARTZ, you know the story, and I don't know if you were at the funeral and everything, we had a soldier that came back. He was in the middle between his basic training and AIT, and a fire broke out in an apartment building. And you want to talk about someone who believed in the ethos of being a soldier. Yeah. And the core values of what it means to serve, not just the country, but the community, and to do something that's greater than yourself. And people think, oh, well, you're National Guard, you're doing it part-time, or you're active duty, it's this way or the other way. Honestly, it's what you make it. It's a lifestyle. And it's whether you believe in what you're doing or you don't believe in it. That's what will drive you to do the very best at what you're doing, and the dedication. And Private First Class Emmanuel Mensah was one of the most hardcore, driven, respectful people that I've ever met. And we always used to do our 2-mile runs together. I remember taking our runs down by the seaport, cold as hell out, take your breath away, and just motivating each other on our runs, going back and forth. And I even found a video on my phone of us marching, and him and I are information. And then Joe Budagari, who was another soldier that was in our group, he was right behind us too. And him and I always talk about it. And unfortunately, Emmanuel gave up his life saving other people, and it was at the hands of someone else's mistake. Someone's child decided to play with the burners on a stove. The doors in the apartment were left open. The crosswind spread the fire, and it ended up killing quite a few people. And if it wasn't for his actions of saving other people and giving himself up for something greater, a lot more people probably would have been killed. So in terms of being a soldier, I really, and this might be biased being an infantry guy or just being where I'm at in my civilian life, there is nothing greater that you can do as a soldier or someone that serves the country than to give up your life for someone else. And a lot of people say that, a lot of it's just talk. But when you have a personal relationship with somebody that you've gone through training with, that you've prepared with, and they do something like that, you don't forget that. You remember the look on their face the last time you had a conversation with them. You remember all the training stuff that you've gone through, and you just keep thinking about that. And there's times where you'll be like, wow, would I do the same thing? And it will happen more times than you will want to believe it. And it's things like that, even in RSP. I met this soldier in RSP. I didn't go to training with him. He wasn't in my unit. He was in my recruit sustainment program detachment. And that kid believed everything that he was fighting for, even down to the very last second when he couldn't do it anymore. And I believe he was awarded the New York Medal of Valor, which is one of the highest medals that you can get in New York. Had a full military funeral, rightfully so. And definitely respect off to him and his family for what he did, because I think any one of us wish we could have done as much as he's done in that situation. And I wear them on my wrist every day. I mean, I'll never forget, that was one of the biggest turning points in my military career, was somebody I trained with and was close with gave up their life for somebody else and someone else's children and husband and wives, and so that they could go home. So definitely, if you guys don't know, you can Google the article. It's on Google, about everything that happened. So definitely a respectable soldier for what he's done.
He went in and out of the building 3, maybe 4 times. I think he went to the building 4 times, but he brought 3 people out, 1 person at a time. And when he went in the 4th time, unfortunately, he never came back out. And the only reason why we were able to identify his body was because of his ID tags around his neck. So yeah, definitely courageous, a true hero, selfless. All right. Yeah, man. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize you were that close to him.
Yeah, it's weird because he always used to wear 2 shirts to drill. And we're like, dude, you're going to sweat. In the Army, we're always pushing, we're always doing something. I'm like, why are you wearing 2 shirts? And he used to wear a long sleeve shirt with a short sleeve shirt over it. And Joe and I always used to be like, dude, aren't you sweating? And he was like, yeah, no, I'm good, man. And he always had motivation, and he was always motivated. And I'm like, man, even when it was cold out. And I remember we did one run, and it was in February, and a gust of wind came off the water, and I took my breath away. I was like, holy cow. And he's like, yeah, man, it's cold as hell out here. Let's go. And we ended up finishing that run. It ended up being a pretty good time. And yeah, I remember him and I had a brief conversation. We had different MOSs. He was going, I think he was going to mechanic school, or he was in the middle of switching. He ended up being a wheeled mechanic, or light wheeled mechanic. And Joe and I were talking about the infantry. And we're like, oh, you should come over to the infantry. And of course, we're all kind of BSing amongst each other, and we're busting each other's balls, and just a good dude. And I remember filling paperwork out, and he would always sit in the desk behind me, and we were always battle buddies doing stuff. So also, you guys, when you join the military, you never go anywhere alone. It's you and always someone else. And that's something that you will carry for the rest of your career in the military. It's at least 2 people, always in battle buddy teams, if not more. It's just always good to have someone there. They're watching your 6, you're watching theirs. And yeah, it was always a really good dude. And unfortunately, we started getting closer towards the end, and my little clique, because I was an RSP for so long, we got closer towards the end of it, not so much as when he was in the beginning and when we were in the same phase in RSP. That's where our little clique that was there for a while really, it was definitely a good group. I miss doing that stuff, and I would go back if I had the chance with the same group of guys. So.
What made you leave New York?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting ready to graduate college. I went to Pace University in Manhattan, for those of you that are in New York. I graduated with an economics degree. Yeah, I should have went to a SUNY or CUNY. I was stupid, but great experience. My college experience, it was, I wouldn't change it for the world. One day I get a phone call. My best friend, who's actually someone I work with now, called me, and he's like, hey, someone I know is a program manager. He works for the Department of Defense. Don't really know what he does. Not quite sure what to expect. They're looking for somebody, and you're kind of in that skill set. You have your clearance, you got some tactical experience and military knowledge. You like doing this stuff, and you have your bachelor's degree. And I'm like, Roger that. What's going on? Because I was trying to get into the FBI. I was trying to get into the CIA. I was like, everybody and anybody who wants me, take me. I'm coming out of college. Make way. So long story short, I fly out here to Virginia. I have an interview. Interesting process. I didn't even know what I was getting into. The company flied me out here. They decided to. I flew from Philadelphia Airport in Pennsylvania, came into Dulles International Airport in Virginia. A shuttle picked me up. I had an interview. and I was interviewed by a Marine Corps infantry lieutenant colonel with 20 plus years of experience. I was interviewed by a Marine major who flew helicopters in the Marine Corps. I was interviewed by another infantry lieutenant colonel that was a ground guy. And I was interviewed by a doctor who was a published author, who was a computer scientist doctor guy. And here I am as a sergeant in the National Guard, freaking out that my tactics and capability set are about to be questioned. I've never met these individuals before. And I'm sitting there like, dear God, I hope everything I've ever done has prepared me up to this point. And of course, me thinking like infantry guys, I'm biased. So I'm thinking I'm going to come in and get knife handed and I'm going to get dropped. And I'm like, I'm in a suit and tie. I'm like, oh my God, what is about to happen? And it turned out to be great. It was a great experience, exhausting process. And I gave them some of the work that I was working on in college, my thesis paper that I had to do in order to graduate. And they liked it. I flew back home in the same day, went right back to school, was finishing up stuff in school, graduated, and I got the job. They liked me. So I decided to come out here. They were hiring more of a junior level kind of person right out of school. The older retirees and the older grunts were starting to shed their age, and the company was founded on military. That's a veteran-owned company. So I came out here and just started working. And since that, I've met some of the greatest people in the world. I've been able to network with some of the craziest people you could possibly imagine. And I've had the opportunity to work and help the military shape itself along with a bunch of other individuals that genuinely care. And for those of you that in any career field, no matter what you are doing, whether you're a chef, a doctor, a dentist, you're an infantryman, you deliver papers, you have those individuals that the community and the world calls the true believers. And they genuinely believe what they are doing is making a difference. And they strive to do the very best of what they're doing every day. They don't tiptoe around their job. They are 100% of the time, all the way. And when I got out of here, that's how it was. But the spin was that they were able to do it in a longevity style methodology. So they were able, and they fine-tuned it to the point of, this is how you go balls to the wall, but this is how you maintain that. And this is why we're the best. And this is why we win every single time we go to war. And just the whole philosophy blew my mind. And I was like, this is why the United States is the way it is. And being a sergeant and a non-commissioned officer in the National Guard, you view things one way. And here I am sitting across from somebody that made a difference on the ground in combat that determined whether we took over Fallujah, the invasion of Iraq. I mean, some of the greatest tank battles, the Battle of 73 Easting, which you guys can watch on YouTube, the individual that led that, General McMaster, he was a colonel at the time. He led that battle. He later became a huge icon in the government during the President Trump's administration. So there are things that you might come across in your life that you never would have thought would be an impact on your life. And every person you meet, every opportunity you get, don't burn a bridge. Don't piss it away, because every relationship is a working relationship. You never know when you're going to need somebody. They might need you. And that's the reason why I'm sitting here today, is years later, even after transitioning from the Guard into the reserves and being a civilian and working for the government, I still have great relationships where I began my military career. And Sergeant SWARTZ has helped me out tremendously with the process that I'm going through now. And you never know when you're going to need somebody, and you never know when they're going to need you. And whether you guys want to believe it or not, you will always need someone at some point, because you will not have all the answers. And often, more times than none, you're going to need someone's help that's a lot more experienced than you. So definitely always remember that, even when you're in a situation that you're not enjoying or it's sucking and you're like, oh my God, this is horrible, just be professional with it, because you never know. It might land you your dream job, and it might change your life and your potential future family, or whatever you have going on in your particular situation.
Yep. So now, what exactly do you do for MARSOC? What would you in text earlier?
So my official title is I'm an analyst, which is there's two parts to my job. There's the computer war gamer kind of guys that do the more programmy stuff, which it's like people think of it as like pushing buttons on a keyboard. And then there's the analytical side of, hey, and I'll just give an example for the infantry guys out there, people that like guns. What happens if I gave every soldier in the military a M249 SAW, a belt-fed machine gun, rather than an M4? Everyone has SAWs now. Everyone can shoot 1,000,000 rounds and shoot real fast. What's the trade-off? Well, you guys that have carried them know that they're heavy as hell, and you can carry a lot of weight, but you get tired very quick. They're hard to clean sometimes, and it requires more maintenance, and X, Y, and Z comes along with that. Well, there's good and bad. And what if we got rid of them and everyone had M4s and vice versa? On the large spectrum versus a near peer threat, whether it's, doesn't matter what country, it could be anyone from Zimbabwe to China to Russia to whoever, pick your country. On a large scale, how will the United States military find its sweet spot where we can be the absolute best and win and fight another war? God forbid another war happens. And there's, the famous saying, if you don't prepare, you will fail. So if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So that's kind of the approach that the military and the government, the Department of Defense takes. And I specifically work in future warfare and more of the fancy gee whiz gadget stuff of the future. There's people that work in the current systems and the current operations, the day-to-day stuff, which is really cool. I've had the chance to meet and work with some of those people, but I tend to look at more of the future advanced systems. I've done work with, I currently work for the Marine Corps as a contractor. I'm not going to say which organization, but I've done everything. We've helped influence them get certain things, everywhere from force recon to MARSOC to just your basic infantry Marine grunt to the computer guy on the ground. It doesn't matter. And for everybody that doesn't realize, wars are not just infantry guys going at it with other dudes on the ground. There are people in every MOS that are important, and every MOS is important because they help sustain one other level that helps another level that helps another MOS that allows the guys in the front to do their job. And intelligence is a huge key of that. It's, you don't know where you're going until someone tells you, hey, that's important or that's not important. And when you do get the opportunity to go from point A to point B, you want the very best stuff to help you get from point A to point B and win that fight at point A to point B. So it's a lot of very meticulous planning and execution, a lot of testing and evaluations. And I've been fortunate enough to work with a really talented group of people. And I've had a lot of good mentors from different branches of the military. And I am a little bit biased towards the Army since we are the hammer. And I always give the Marines shit that I work with. And it's always a good kind of work tension that you have with that. And one of the best things about the military guys is there is always a common respect amongst veterans, no matter what branch you come from, no matter what MOS. At the end of the day, that is a family-oriented environment. You guys will always have a common respect for one another because of what you're doing and what you went through. Doesn't matter. There will always be someone that works more than someone else or has done something more than someone else. So just keep in mind that, if you have a veteran on your team, you're going to win.
That's true. That's true. Now, it's funny that you say that you never burn bridges and stuff, right? Because you recently reached out to me about a particular question about an Army Reserve career counselor, yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm really, really against toxic tactics, right? And this was more prevalent a few years ago. Sergeant Cento was the first one to bring it to my attention in recent years that I can recall. Maybe it's been going on, just no one's reached out to me. But previously, before him, I used to get at least 3 or 4 a year of people from this particular location here in New York City from a career counselor. But so when you leave the military or when you're enlisting or if you're thinking about enlisting, what a lot of recruiters may or may not bring up to you or you'll be briefed at MEPS, but you don't know really what they're talking about, and they're kind of rushing through it because there's so much going on throughout the whole process. But there's a thing called the military service obligation. So you're actually incurring an 8-year obligation. And you could break it down into your statutory obligation and your, well, I'm having a brain fart here.
You have your IRR time too.
Yeah.
And your mandatory service time.
Yeah, but I was trying to use the technical terms. Oh man. Anyway, so you have, your contractual obligation and your statutory obligation. There, I got it. Thank you. So your contractual obligation is whatever you're agreeing to do, whether it's full-time or part-time, where you're working a minimum 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of a year as a reservist, or working 3 full years straight, right? So out of an 8-year obligation, if you're signing up for 3 years, you still owe us 5 more years. So you get placed into what we call the IRR, or the Inactive Readiness Reserve, which is a system that was designed after the draft so that we could tap into that database to prevent forcing people to serve, right? I mean, with the IR, you're still going to be forcing people, but at least they're already trained, right? But so when you go into the IRR for a Army Reserve Career Counselor, they can pull anyone from the IRR with your permission, of course, to go active duty or to the Army Reserve. And what irked me about this email that he questioned me about was, in the email, it's saying that you're agreeing to process, but it's not a contract, right? So it was just the way he went about it that irked me. Like, I cannot wait to do a video on this. But if you're in the IRR and you want to come back into the National Guard, you're going to have to go through the entire enlistment process. If you're going into reserve or active duty, they can get you in like halfway. So they do a 4187 request for action, and you're essentially saying, yes, I want to join the Army Reserve or active duty. This is the MOS I'm taking, the paragraph in the line of which I'm taking, so on and so forth. And the any type of incentives that you're getting will also be annotated on there as well. And you're agreeing that you're going to go and in process at either the reserve unit or active duty from there to complete your re-enlistment process. And it's really, really simple and streamlined for the reserve and active duty to do this, but it's a full process for the National Guard. But the moral of the story is, if a reserve career counselor is telling you that you need to sign this document, make sure you read what it is that you're about to sign, because his email said one thing, but the paperwork said something else, which is why he had a red question mark over his head and asked me about it. Luckily, it's something that he's actually genuinely interested in, but it was just a tactic that the guy was using that just screams mad shadiness. So yeah, just word to the wise. If you're in the IRR and a career counselor is doing that to you, understand that when you sign that document and you send it back to them, you're agreeing to go into reserve or active duty. And there's really no way of getting out of it after that. I've had so many people not want to serve, but for whatever, I don't know why they signed it, but they did. And they were committed from that point forward. So, all right. So when do you, so you said that you signed it and sent it back. Do you have any idea when you're going to go in process and finish that?
So for those of you guys that are wondering, I requested a 35 Lima, which is a counterintelligence special agent. The process is far and few between. It's very difficult to find those slots. From what I found out, you have to be prior service. I had to have a minimum of 4 years, which is, I had 4 years and some change left on my contract when I got out. I originally signed a 3-year one. I extended for a year and some change. And fortunately enough, I had a clearance already. So the in-processing of the unit, I had to send them my resume. I'm going to have to go through a hearing board. So it's a different variation of just getting in-processed into a unit. As an E5, even as a sergeant, as a non-commissioned officer in the National Guard, I will be the lowest person on the totem pole. And it is run by a lot of officers, and I think there's only going to be 2 E5s. So, and I will be actually working in an E6 slot. So that should be exciting, being on the bottom again. It's always a good time. And from what I was told, Counterintelligence Academy is 18 to 25 weeks, depending on what's going on. I'm sure with COVID, there's some white space, or there's going to be something going on. And then there is DLI, the Defense Language Institute, which is out in Monterey, California. That is still kind of up in the air. There's kind of a black shroud over what goes on at language school or what language you have to take. Sometimes the unit will request you to do specific ones and they'll offer bonuses or money up for it, or just be like, hey, you need to do this because this is what's in demand right now, which is probably how it will end up going. And depending on the language that you take, whether it's Mandarin, Russian, Farsi, Pashto, Dari, Punjabi, Vietnamese, Korean, whatever the big ones are out there now, it could be anywhere from 6 months to a year. The attrition rate is pretty high. For those of you that speak another language, definitely look into this field. You might be able to take the exam. Sergeant Swartz will probably be able to speak more on what exams you can take for the language. You might be able to get paid more in the military, especially if you guys are bilingual or trilingual. Definitely look to take the exams because these units will pick you up and they will give you a really good education, both on the civilian side and as an MOS specific school. So I'm expecting the pipeline to be about a year-ish with breaks in between. And fortunately enough, on my civilian job, I have a little bit of intelligence experience in being around intelligence people. So I have a somewhat of an idea of what to expect. Counterintelligence is kind of its own animal with how it is today. So, and it's continuously evolving, but it sounds like something that's really awesome. There's a lot of cool schools and you learn all the secret, cool James Bond stuff. So it sounds pretty fun. I have no idea what's going to happen. And guys, you're going to have to realize that in the military, sometimes you can't control everything. And there's the saying of just ride the lightning. You can work your ass off to get exactly where you want to be, but at some point you have to embrace the pipeline of what you're about to do. And it, more times than none, it is always worth it in the end because it is something that you can bring with you no matter where you go. And that goes for all branches of the military.
That's true. What advice would you give someone who's contemplating and joining the military and or shopping around looking for the BBD, the bigger, better deal?
So there's a few things. You need to figure out what your thought process is as to why you're thinking to go one way or the other. Now, I wrote a few things down that I was on the fence about because I wasn't sure. I was one of those people. I was like, man, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go down the middle? Like, what is going on? So there's a few things that are constant no matter what you decide to do. Success in itself is a product of monotony, meaning no matter what you decide to do, active duty, reserves, guard, you will learn things, you will learn values, fundamentals that you will take both in the military and in your civilian career. And that's what also people tend to overlook. So what I mean by success as a product of monotony is that whatever you do, whatever you decide, go at it full tilt 100%, because you never know what you will learn in that career field that it will help you somewhere else. And it might not be exactly the skill set that you're doing. It might be something as simple as, holy cow, I had to work 10-hour days for 3 months straight. That was horrible, but I just developed a work ethic where my partner over here has had the cush job, something super easy, and you guys are fighting for the same job, and they end up burning out after a week, and you end up getting the promotion or you end up getting the job. And those are things like that that people tend to overlook. And it's the small indirect things that might make the difference of whether you win or lose in that kind of environment. And that's not just military, guys. Like, that might be the difference of whether you get a better PT score and you get that awesome, cool school, or that might be the difference in the civilian world of whether you get that promotion or you get the raise or you get that job. Defense jobs, along with every other job in this world, especially with COVID going on, it is competitive. It's a competitive market. So anything you can do to help yourself get better, do it. It's not a waste. However, you're not always going to make the right decision. But not making a decision is the worst thing you can do. Stagnation will result in failure. Make a decision, go full tilt, and take the good and the bad that comes with it.
And some people experience paralysis based on analysis. So they're constantly researching and don't want to pull the trigger because they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake or do something that they're going to regret. Or they're listening to somebody else talking in their ear that they should do X, Y, Z. And almost 100% of the time, the one that's in your ear telling you that you shouldn't do it or what have you are generally not doing anything special or remarkable about their life, but they know exactly the perfect recipe for your life for success. and they're not even following their own advice. So
Yep.
you can research all day, but you have to execute. And if you're joining for your reasons and your reasons alone, there is no regret involved. Now, you may be disappointed in your decision if it doesn't go the way you want it to or the way you expected it. But if you do enough research, you talk to the right people to get a good understanding of what you're about to get into, the rest is exactly what he's saying. What you put into it is what you get out of it. So, but the thing is, you have to commit to yourself and be 200% into it, not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And, if it's going great, great, both feet in. But as soon as you get any type of resistance, then you like backpedal, right? No, it's good, bad, or indifferent. Keep charging forward, make the best out of this situation or opportunity. And trust me, if you go in there with the right mindset, a phenomenal work ethic, right? You're gonna go places and you're gonna do great things. But if you go in there with a minimalist type attitude, that ain't my job, that ain't my job, that ain't my job, you're gonna have a hard time in this organization. It doesn't matter if you're 30 years old or 20 years old. The Army's based on rank, influence, right, and leadership. And you don't necessarily have to be in an exact leadership position to lead. People will listen to you, and that's influence. Obviously, you don't overstep your bounds, but
No, I actually wrote that down, and I put, take your own path, not someone else's. Don't let someone else live vicariously through you. And guys, at the end of the day, you will have to deal with the good and bad that comes with your decision-making process. That individual that told you to do something, they're not going to reap the benefits or suffer the consequences of you deciding to go left or going right. And you deserve to reap the benefits of your decision-making, and you deserve to deal with the consequences, whatever they may be, or as harsh as they may be. And what that is doing is you are building a sense of confidence in yourself, because one, you're not always going to make the right decision, and you will suffer consequences of some sort at some level. And what that will do is you will build a thicker skin, you will learn how to deal with adversity, and you're going to understand that that's just the way the world is. And it's not just in the military. What happens when things go wrong? What happens when your wife is sick and your kid's puking and you got to go to the store and COVID's going on and there's a shortage of this? It's no different than if you're in a gunfight, or it's no different if you're rappelling off of a mountain, or you're in a Black Hawk that's flying around. Like, guys, the principles are all the same and the benefits are the same. You get to go home after a long drilling weekend of sleeping out in the field, and you get to come out on the other side of, once your wife gets better, your child's not sick anymore, or whatever the case may be. When you're done and you get over that speed bump, you're like, okay, I can deal with this, on to the next thing. And there will always be a next thing. You take it one day at a time, one thing at a time, and you will be a better person for it. And it will improve your work ethic, and that develops discipline. And Sergeant Swartz, I know you will agree with me on this. The big difference between discipline and motivation, guys, it is a huge thing. Motivation is great. Find what motivates you. But when you're tired and sleepy, you need to have discipline, because discipline is going to be there when you are not motivated and your motivation decides to fail you. That discipline is what's going to get you up in the morning, and it will help you be successful, whether you're a National Guard soldier, an active duty soldier, or just a civilian. Discipline and dedication will drive you to do the very best at what you are doing every single day, including your family life and your career field.
Yep. People are always looking for the perfect moment, perfect circumstance, perfect condition to pull the trigger and make a decision. Do not be indecisive. Do not hesitate. Make a decision. Good, bad, or indifferent. Be proactive. Control the things that you can control. Don't worry or stress about things that you have no control on, and stop playing the negative aspect of the what if game. What if this happens and I lose my job? Or what if this happens and I get hurt? Or what if this happens and whatever? Why not look at, what if you get an awesome career you can retire from and earn up to $1,000 to $2,000 or more a year when you retire after 20 years at, let's say, 40 years old, depending on when you sign up, right? Like, I can retire as young as 43 years old and make over $2,000 a month for the rest of my life without having to work for it because of what I'm doing now. So, like, I enlisted in 2001. February 9th, to be exact. I started my research in late 2000. Long story short, I ended up choosing the Army National Guard over everyone else. Even then, pre 9/11, before we were in war and combat and stuff, even my guidance counselor looked down on me for joining the military. And I make over $100,000 a year here in New York City between my base pay, my housing allowance, grocery money, whatever what they call Konos Cola and stuff like that. With a high school diploma. I'm about to start college. I'm going to get over 52 college credits from Post University, converting my military transcript into college credit. It wasn't until in the last 2 years that I finally figured out something that I'm passionate about and feel that it's worthwhile for me to go to college. Now, that's a whole different story for another day, but there's so many things that my career in the Army National Guard has provided me that I wouldn't have had I stayed in my hometown in upstate New York, in a small town, making chump change and having very little purpose or drive or even motivation. Like, I knew I was destined for greatness and wanted to do great things. I had an awesome mentor. He used to be in the Marine Corps. He's a little disappointed I didn't go in the Marine Corps, but if it wasn't for the recruiters, I would have been in the Marines. But you know, I ultimately chose the Army National Guard because of our community and state aspect, in addition to having the same ability of going overseas. But this brought me so many opportunities. I met so many different people, and I've had a fulfilled life. And, you know, if I had let other people decide for me or discourage me from making that decision, I would be, not that there's anything wrong with being in the country, but I would just be a lowly country boy doing nothing worthwhile in my life other than being a volunteer firefighter for my local town, which was my highlight back then. You know, so, you know, you can't always listen to what other people say. You have to find out what's important here and follow your dreams, because if not, you're going to be helping with somebody else's dream.
Yep, that is exactly right. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a decision to do something at some point. And whatever you do, just be resilient, embrace what's going on. And one of the best things that I ever heard when we were going through infantry school was the drill sergeant came out and he's like, all right, everyone saddle up. He's like, because this isn't a dress rehearsal. And that is the God's honest truth, guys. Life is not a dress rehearsal. It is from point A to point B, and whatever you do in between is going to be purely based off your decisions and everything that you decide to do. Just make it worth it. Try to do something good for someone else and for yourself. Make other people's lives better your community. Try to influence others to do great things. And by making other people's lives better, you will make your life better. And I know those are all sound pretty cliche, but here I am doing my job, trying to find better ways to make our military more lethal so that we could take the fight to anybody and really dish out a just debilitating blow to the point of us just being like, that's why you don't even want to mess with us in the first place. That same fire and passion can be used in your civilian life. It doesn't have to be combat related. Go in there, no matter what you're doing, and go full tilt. And an FBI agent told me once, he goes, if you have a lawyer and a waiter, and he said the lawyer sucks at his job and he's an asshole and he's a horrible person, he doesn't want to help anybody, but that waiter puts a smile on people's face every day, and people come back and they have regulars because they like him and he's good at his job and he shows up early. He said the Federal Bureau of Investigation will take that waiter 10 out of 10 times over that lawyer because of who they are, because they're well-rounded, and because they can serve other people, and not literally, no pun intended there, but because they have the work ethic of being a team player. And that is one of the biggest things is just be a team player, guys. It's not about you. It's not about just you being successful. At some point, you're going to have to work well with others. And another thing that the military will show you, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter where you're going, you guys are going to have to come together to figure out a problem, because you guys are going to again, reap the benefits or suffer the consequences as a team and win and lose as a team. So you guys see throughout this whole process, everything kind of overlaps. And it's, again, the fundamentals and the basics. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. Sergeant Swartz had a different pipeline than I did in the military, and the next person you talk to is going to have a different pipeline. And for the most part, we're all pretty successful, and we're happy. And there's more than one way to get to the finish line, guys. And do everyone a favor. Take the advice of other people that are more experienced. Take it with a grain of salt, but write your own ticket and just enjoy the process along the way. And yeah, I'll tell Sergeant Swartz, if any of you have questions, you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me. I have had people help me tremendously along the way, and I have never forgotten that. I've had to work my way from the bottom up to where I'm at now. I have had help. I've had great mentors. As Sergeant Swartz said, I've reached back out to him, and I'll be going on 4+ years in the military. I don't know everything. Like Sergeant Swartz reached out to somebody for me. Like I have people to fall back on. And that will just continue to be the pickup basketball game that your life is going to be for the rest of your life. So get good at pickup basketball, guys. That's really all it is.
Exactly. Do me a favor, like this video down below. It takes you 2 seconds to like this video if you like what we're sharing with you today. I really, really do appreciate that from y'all. And to address Vanna Wang in your question about is it true that you can get college credit when you're out of the military, whether you're in or out of the military? You can convert your military transcript of all your schools, leadership training, all that stuff, even the correspondence courses that you've taken within the Army, right? You can apply that to your joint service transcript, I think is what it's called. Anyway, you send that joint services transcript to your college, and they'll convert the credits, the military training rather, that correlate or are congruent with your degree plan. So if you're a military policeman or something like that, and you're going for a criminal justice degree, you're going to get a lot more versus if you're going for, let's say, a liberal arts degree, right? So you'll get anywhere from like a handful of credits upwards to 30 some odd credits. Some cases, like if you go into some of the 35 series, like he's about to go to right now, you could actually come back with almost a 2-year degree worth of credits from your military training, because you're basically in school, like he said, for almost like a year, and it's a crash course. So you're learning so much in such a short amount of time that would normally equate to 2+ more years of college worth of knowledge jammed in that short period of time. So yes, depending on your MOS, your degree plan on what major and minor that you're pursuing in college, yes, 100% in or out of the military, your joint services military transcript can be sent to your college, and they can convert those into college credit. For my example, with February 9th of this month, in a few days, will be 20 years in the Army National Guard. And before I completed the Drill Sergeant Academy and my online SSD4, they were offering me at Post University in Connecticut 52 credits. That may or may not go up now with the Drill Sergeant Academy and the SSD4 course, but 52 credits towards a 4-year degree. I'm almost halfway there with my military transcript that I don't have to sit in a semester for. I don't have to pay any money out of my pocket for those classes because I'm doing it online. They take and utilize my federal tuition 100% to include using that same funding for my book. So I don't have to spend any money out of pocket to go to Post University online. And I'm almost have 2 years worth of credits right off the jump like that. And I'm still in the military. So over the next 4.5 or for the next 5.5 years, while I have left in the Guard, I'll be pursuing my 4-year degree. So by the time I retire, I'll have a 6-year degree. I'm probably going to go for my master's too before I leave.
There you go. That's another big thing, guys. Get educated. It's not going to hurt. The military, get a good education, be well-rounded. The best possible outcome for you when you go to get your dream job.
I'm reading through some of these comments. Yeah, there's a lot of selfish people in the world. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of selfish myself. My fiance will tell you. That could be pretty selfish at times.
How do I get my generation to teach them to stop being so selfish and withdraw? Yeah, so guys, when you get to basic training, that will get weeded out pretty quickly. The individuals and the people that are selfish will get hammered beyond belief, and even to the point where your other battle buddies will begin to straighten them out. You cannot be selfish and serve this country. And even in the civilian world, maybe you can skate the road. You're not going to be liked by many. You are going to have a difficult time getting promoted. Being good at anything, being selfish is not a good trait to have. And my generation too, guys, I'm 24 years old, soon to be 25. I'm young, and I'm part of that generation that is the snowflakes or the softies. And fortunately enough, I surround myself with individuals that aren't like that. So choose your friends wisely and who you surround yourself with, because odds are, if they're selfish, when something goes south and you really need them, they're probably not going to be there for you if it means that it's going to inconvenience them or they have something that they deem is more important. So be careful who you surround yourself with, because you tend to become a product of your environment after a while.
100%. There's a quote from Zig Ziglar: you'll never soar with eagles if you're hanging around turkeys. So what that means is surround yourself with like-minded individuals. 80% of your friends, like true friends and acquaintances, should be people at your level or greater. The other 20% are people that you're inspiring so they can be like you at your level, right? To piggyback on that, I just lost my train of thought here. Oh, yeah. So in life, you're going to have real friends, and then you're going to have a bunch of acquaintances. A lot of people confuse the word acquaintance and a friend. A friend would do anything for you, like he said, right? And acquaintances, when it's convenient for them, they're your friend. But when you really need them, they make that excuse that they got something else to do, so on and so forth. So those are your acquaintances. So when you're in high school, grade school, yeah, you have all kinds of friends, right? But as you get older, your friends list is going to dwindle down to like 1 to 3 people, like true, accurate, ride or die, loyal friends. So don't get hung up on your friends' opinion about joining the military if you're in high school, college, or what have you. Okay. If this is something that you want to do, choose for your reasons, because unless they're paying your bills, putting a roof over your head, clothes on your back, you got to do what's best for you. And only you can figure that out for yourself. And this question here, it's not that you can learn a foreign language in the National Guard, unless Sergeant Cento was talking about something else, but you can take written and oral exams for any language you want. And depending on the language, you can earn X amount of dollars per month for every month that you're on active duty. That's not offered for a reservist. Like, they don't pay out for it while you're part-time. But if you're ever on orders, like deployed overseas or on like full-blown Title 10 regular Army active duty type stuff, then yes, you'll get like $100 or whatever per language. I think you can earn up to like 3 or 4 languages, but you have to like read, write, and do an oral exam to pass it. And then once that's on your record, that's extra money every month. I don't think Spanish will give you anything because it's too common. But if you know, like especially the ones that we're really, really interested in, like Cantonese, Mandarin, Russian, Urdu, what's the other ones from the Middle East?
Yeah, you got Pashto, Dari, Farsi.
There you go. Like those ones, those are the ones that they're looking for you to learn and know.
Definitely. Yeah, guys, it's not a secret what countries are quote unquote not the friendliest with us. So it's always good to obviously for military interests, the country would probably seek those as higher value from a monetary perspective because you're of more value, potentially. Not always the case. So be aware of that.
Yep. Hey, Jacob, that's phenomenal. Losing 30 pounds, that's a big deal right there. So whatever you're doing, man, drive on. Keep doing great things, man. That's awesome.
Keep that work ethic and that discipline with everything else that you're doing. It will make you way more successful. So that's great.
So infantry is 22 weeks, I believe, right now.
Yeah, they made it longer. I got lucky.
Yeah. Oh, you did the 14-week one?
Yeah, I was out there for a while. I got stuck in reception because there was a holiday, so I was in reception for like 10 days. On the 11th day, I finally got plucked out. I was like, when am I going to start training already? I'm like, I had enough getting poked and stabbed with every vaccine known to man. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I know they changed it though.
Let me do this real quick. Hey, y'all, right here, Miss Dreeks. She is another Army military YouTuber. She's currently in active duty. I can't remember her MOS, but she posts all kinds of content for like pre-basic, basic training, and a lot more stuff for post initial entry training, like all kinds of stuff from like finances to leadership to promotion stuff. Go subscribe to her channel. She's very personable. She's got an awesome personality. She's very, very bubbly. You'll like her channel. But yeah, she posts a lot of great stuff. So definitely go subscribe to her. She's awesome. She's fun to watch, and she puts out, like I said, great information. So Michael Keenan is asking, when did you join?
It was 2016-ish. Yeah, 2016.
15 years after me, bro.
I know. Oh, it's kind of a blur now. Like even a couple years after, I'm like, man, I was like, because like my college and everything overlapped, and I had to finish an extra semester because I had to do a thesis paper in order to graduate. And it was, yeah, I think around 2016 timeframe, and I was in RSP for a while. And I joined in the summer. I forget what month it was, like May or August, May 31st or August 31st, and then hit the ground running. Yeah. And I've only been out for a couple months now, so I'm looking at making the transition.
That's cool. And then you have, let's see. This guy's funny. I speak language called Karen. Have you heard of it before?
Luckily, I'm young enough to understand that, the memes.
Oh, I can't believe how
That's
old
rough.
I am, bro.
Don't have that attitude if you get to your training site. You might be pushing for a while. But definitely keep that sense of humor though. It'll keep you sane as well. So make sure you know when and when not to be a Karen.
Yep. Dude, I think I'll be like 46 by the time I retire, and I'll still be hip to all these phrases and stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah. Social media
like
keeps
that.
the youth.
Oh yeah. He's saying it's a real language. That's funny. So what made you choose the Guard specifically back then? Do you recall? I don't know if I asked you that question.
Why or when?
Like what made you choose the Army National Guard, say, compared to like the Reserve or any other branch of the military? Was it just because you wanted infantry, or because I know you were going to college to a private university? Was it a reason why you chose the Guard over, say, the Army Reserve?
The flexibility, honestly, being in the Guard and still being able to serve and do college allowed me to still get some training. And when I got out of college, I wanted to be well-rounded. That was my biggest goal. And I wanted tactical training. So that's the reason why I chose the Guard over Reserves, is that I did want a combat MOS. And I also looked at the armories of where I could be stationed in comparison to where I was living. So logistics was kind of a thing. And just in terms of how could I benefit from all the tools and skill sets that I could learn in the military. And I mean, there's always the pride thing. I really wanted to serve. I mean, when you put that uniform on, you have to earn that every day, especially when you're an NCO. You really have to go above and beyond to be a good quality NCO. And it's a privilege to wear the uniform. I really believe that it's not a right, and anybody that disgraces that shouldn't be wearing it.
I think with the millennials and the Gen X generations, right? As far as like the military is concerned and things that I've observed over the years, I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to rank in the militaries, they want the rank, but they don't necessarily want the responsibility and to actually embrace what it means to be a leader, to influence, inspire, motivate, and, you know, provide that purpose to their junior soldiers. You know what I mean? And it frustrates the hell out of me when people literally don't give an F about the regulations or anything like that, but they're so quick to be like, yo, I'm the sergeant, you better listen to me, you know? And I just freaking hate that with a passion.
And you know what, guys, that is in the military. I've served with guys that are like that. And, you know, you can tell the difference when people come to you with their problems and they don't go run into that other individual, and they come to you and they're like, hey, like, look, I don't want to put up with that. Like, I just need real advice, like personal advice. Like, I don't know what to do, especially being part-time in the military, guys. There's things that are going to happen in your civilian life that are going to influence your military stuff. And your NCOs and the core of the military, they need to care about that. And I think for me, working my way up little by little, again, I was just an average soldier. I'm just an average dude. And I think I understood what most of those guys were dealing with or going through. Now, some things I will never be able to understand just because they come from different cultures and backgrounds and things like that. But you have to be willing to try to understand and work with them, even when you're not going to know all the answers. And somebody who's just going to pull rank and flex their stripes, the wrong person for the job, especially being an NCO. As a junior NCO, your job is to take care of the individuals that are beside you. I hate to use the term underneath of you. I can't stand that. You are in charge of the safety and well-being of the people that are you're quote unquote in charge of. So when I got out, I was a truck commander. I was in a heavy weapons unit and a mounted infantry unit. Those weapon systems, that vehicle, and those individuals were my responsibility, and they were a reflection of me. So if I didn't put the time and effort into them and they didn't perform, or they were upset, or we weren't doing well in training or gunnery or whatever we were doing, that came back to me. And that doesn't work, or you don't benefit from that by flexing your stripes or threatening people. And like I keep saying, you win and lose as a team, and get away from the whole, hey, I'm in charge, you're underneath of me sort of thing. That might work sometimes, guys, when you're taking disciplinary action, and sometimes that is required. Yes.
It should be the exception, not the standard, 100%.
Yes. And I'm telling you guys, you will have a better outcome, and you will have a way better time in the military when you care about the individuals that you're serving with, no matter what your rank is.
And for those of you that are joining, or maybe you've joined and for some reason you're watching us, which is great, leadership should not stop at SSD online or the actual schoolhouse where we send you to BLC, ALC, and SLC and all that good stuff, right? So those are your various leadership schools that the Army is going to send you. You can literally buy books, go to the library, get books on leadership. It's something that you have to study and take the golden nuggets that resonate with you and use that every single day. Like, I have books on leadership. I have The Exceptional Leader. I have this one I can't wait to start reading, is the
Jocko's book.
Leadership. Yeah, Jocko's, right? I have another one over here. Oh, I did. Oh, here it is. Right? So I have another one here by Jeffrey Gittimer. That was a really good book. I like that one a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
More so than I had anticipated. I don't know if was that on screen? This one is a really good book. Hang on.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
There we go. The Little Book of Leadership by Jeffrey Gittimer. Believe it or not, this one had a lot of golden nuggets in it. The other two I'm getting ready to read. So I don't know if they saw that on the screen.
Jocko's book's really good.
Yeah, I heard this one's really good. I want to read his other one he did as well. I'm not sure if that's on leadership or not, but you always have to be willing to learn and grow and figure out, especially in the beginning, you have to taste different things, try out different methods. And my biggest advice to anyone who's going to eventually become a leader, because it's going to happen, right, is when going up through the ranks, you're going to have good leadership and not so good leadership. And I'll add something to this as well, but take the good things that you like from the leaders and remember that, so that you can use that, put that in your tool belt, so that when you become a leader, you too can use the same exact thing. However, the lessons that you learn through the people of ineffective, bad, horrible, or even toxic leadership, remember that. Remember how you felt when they were exercising that toxic trait or their ineffective, horrible leadership. Because when you become a person of influence and actually get assigned to a leadership role as a non-commissioned officer and actually start, lack of a better term, be in charge of people, that's why you rather use the word influence, because steer clear of those things that you don't like from those leaders. Do not become one of them. It's so easy because that's what we experience. So sometimes because we lack experience, that's what we're not necessarily comfortable with, but that's what we've been exposed to. So the cycle keeps going. Break that cycle. Become a leader of a person who takes care of their soldiers. Number one, always take care of your soldiers. Always. Right? That's rule number one. Rule number two is to look at rule number one. Right? But you have to find your leadership style. Some people are hard charging, do as I say, rah, 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 all up in your face. Some people are passive aggressive. Just figure out your leadership style, and you're gonna make mistakes. That's fine. The higher you go up in ranks, you're supposed to minimize to like no mistakes, right? But you're gonna make mistakes, and that's fine. Just learn from them, because as long as you learn from them, it's not really a mistake unless you're getting in trouble for it, and that's a different story. But just make better decisions and try to grow every single day. And like I said, read books, listen to audio podcasts on leadership, and not even just leadership, just look to grow. You got to work out your mind as much as your body. And it just doesn't stop. And it's not enough just to go through the Army schools for various leadership and stuff like that. You have to take it upon yourself and actually put in that effort and to have that empathy. And I think they're going to be adding that to the NCOER, if I'm not mistaken, in OER at some point, having empathy for your soldier. And I've been saying this for a long time. I was actually going to post it in my story the other day, and I forgot, and I think I'm going to do it when I get off this, or maybe tomorrow. We should do like a Yelp for our senior leadership. We're always being evaluated from the top down. We should be rating them from the bottom up. Right? Obviously, there's going to be a percentage because you're not going to make everyone happy, right?
Right.
But I truly believe that we should be also evaluating that. I guess that's like the climate unit company climate survey or whatever they call it, right? I guess that's kind of like a way of doing it. But yeah, man, I think we should do a reverse evaluation of our senior leaders.
My old unit used to do that. It was very informal, and the XO. For you guys, that's the executive officer. He reports directly to the captain, which is at 03, the company commander of the unit. He used to informally ask us about that kind of stuff. And especially for you New Yorkers, some of these guys serve with each other every day, especially with the counterterrorism unit and also in drilling weekends. So sometimes they see each other for 2 weeks at a time. You really get to know somebody and their lifestyle, and you can only fake it till you make it for so long, and eventually someone's true personality traits, whether they actually care about you, will start to come out. And like Sergeant Swartz said, it's I wish they did that in a more formal sense. I think it would tighten up the NCO Corps, and definitely the officer corps for sure. And I'll be biased as an NCO for sure. All you officers out there watching.
100%, man.
I'm totally going to hear it when I get off of this about for all the officers.
Did you read Jocko's book about self-discipline?
I have it on a podcast. I listen to it on the way to work sometimes. I was reading, what was the other one I was playing? It was called Extreme Ownership. And that was the one that
I downloaded the audio book. I haven't gotten around to it.
That's what I've been doing. I mean, I have to drive 30 plus minutes to work, depending on what's going on. And Virginia drivers can't drive, so I have plenty of time to listen to what's going on. Guys, definitely what Sergeant Swartz was talking about, there's individuals that you should look to for influence in the community that had successful military careers. They are very in tune with hammering at the basics and the fundamentals, and they're no BS. Jocko Willink, David Goggins. You have Nick Bear, who owns Bear Performance Nutrition. Nick Lavery, who's the amputee Green Beret, which a lot of you guys have seen. He made the transition from staff sergeant or sergeant first class to warrant officer. He's one of the best guys. He has some of the best advice. And he just started his YouTube channel. And there's so many people out there in the community that are, a lot of them are former special operations guys that don't believe in BS. And that's what you want to listen to. And each one has a different philosophy and has lived a different way and has done a different pipeline. But when you really listen, it all comes down to the same thing. Be honest, be humble, have a good work ethic, work well with others, and go full tilt, full throttle all the time. Don't half-ass anything, because you will get a half-ass product at the end of it.
Yep. And one thing to add to that, and if you're not a leader, be a good, effective follower. Nothing worse than somebody who's not willing to listen or do what you have to say. So when in leadership, lead. When a follower, be a good follower. All right? So
what is the question? It's just like what Jocko says about discipline. Any tips on self-discipline? Yes. Like I said before, success is a product of monotony. Give yourself a routine. That way you understand what you like, what you don't like. It can be making your bed every morning. Admiral William McRaven, who was in charge of SEAL Team 6 at the time of the Osama bin Laden raid, he made that famous speech about wake up every morning, make your bed, and that way you make your bed perfectly every morning. So if you have the crappiest day possible, you at least will come home to a perfectly made bed. And on the other side, you might hear other SEALs that Admiral McRaven served with that are like, you know what, that's stupid. You could be spending that time making your bed, investing in something that matters. Not right or wrong on either side. I understand both philosophies. That's you as an individual need to take what you think is valuable out of both of those and incorporate it into your life and find what works for you. What worked for a SEAL Team 6 commander and what worked for another SEAL who came from two different backgrounds, two different pipelines, and what worked for me and worked for Sergeant Swartz might not work for you. But a combination of the both or nothing at all or something we say might spark something that you figure out on your own. And you guys, the problem with the generation is there's this black and white of everything has to be so cut and dry. People need to get out of that, and they need to kind of veer off into the gray autonomous zone and become more autonomous thinkers and free thinking and try stuff out. Don't live by what other people do or work, that has worked for them. Might be good, might work to an extent, but again, take everything with a grain of salt.
Yep, 100%. So there's a lot of questions to which basic training site is, I guess, more challenging, more disciplined versus another.
That question.
So,
oh, man.
In my opinion, if you're going OSA, it's going to be amped up a little bit more. If you're going outside of an OSA and just doing basic training, then it's all the same, right? So it doesn't matter which location you go to for training. It's the same curriculum. What will matter or impact you the most are the drill sergeants who are delivering that training. So they're, again, going back to different leadership styles. And it just so happens that people who are drill sergeants who come from a combat background tend to be a little more intense compared to someone like me who is combat support.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think there's a few things that will impact that, and you hit the nail on the head. Combat jobs will definitely be slightly more rougher around the edges, rightfully so, because you don't want to be fighting on the front line, be tired and be like, that's it, I'm going home. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just be like cold, wet, tired, and hungry and go home. Fort Benning, Georgia is rough. In the summertime, it gets pretty hot. The wildlife out there is pretty crazy. It's like, I've never seen stuff like that. And I agree. I remember getting to my training site and we used to have to recite the Infantryman's Creed because everybody I was with from day one to the day I graduated, we were all infantry. There were no combat medics. There were no Cav scouts or dudes driving tanks or helicopters. They split us off. And for a reason, that's just the way that MOS runs. It's one station unit training. And you do get hammered pretty early on. And I remember I was shooting a couple weeks into the red phase, which is the initial phase that starts your process. and they're all broken up into red, white, and blue. I think that's still like that, right, son?
I'm sorry, what? I was reading a comment.
The red, white, and blue phases, they still break them up like that?
Yeah. Now with the controlled monitoring phase, either yellow phase or C1, C2. So it's 4 phases.
There's 4 phases now. Okay. Well, whatever phase you guys are in, definitely OSA is probably a little bit tougher because those drill sergeants, they're with you for that whole period of time. Some installations are tougher than others, and also each drill sergeant group might be different than another group. Like I have different stories and different experiences from my infantry unit than from someone else that actually was right down the street from me in Fort Benning, almost at the same time. And Sergeant Swartz knows me and Joseph Budagari, who was in my recruit sustainment unit with Private Menta that passed away. His stories were completely different than mine. And there was some streamlined stuff and there's some difference, and we learned different tactics. And that is one thing you'll learn in the military is even if you go through the same pipeline as I did or someone that just went through it, you're going to have a different experience. It might be tougher in some areas. You might get smoked more. You might shoot more. You might do more land nav. You might learn things that the drill sergeants are good at. I remember the one drill sergeant in mine, he used to yell in a foreign language all the time because he served in the French Foreign Legion. So it was something new. Combatives was a big thing in my infantry school class. Every Saturday we did combatives. My buddy only did it a couple times, but he went to level 2 right out of infantry school. So it really depends, guys. Some are harder than others, but every basic training cycle has its own experience too. So don't get so tunnel visioned on like what you see on YouTube and stuff like that. It's a good guidance, but don't get blinders either.
So I went through Army basic training at Fort Knox when they had the TRADOC post there, and the level of discipline was at an all-time high. And then when I went to do my 71 Lima training, which is now equivalent to the new 42 Alpha Human Resources training at Fort Jackson, and then like at Fort Knox, PT was challenging, but it really wasn't that hard. But when I went to Fort Jackson, not we as in me, but everyone around me in my platoon, the discipline was atrocious. But the PT, like, I got significantly better and improved on my PT so much at Fort Jackson. Like, it was not relaxed in Jackson when it came to PT. I thought it was at first, because that first night when we got there, the drill sergeant came out and he was doing accountability formation, and he had people, I guess it was a thing then, because I guess it was a holdover class. So I came in right before the next class started. So they had been there for a while, and they would just be like, oh, you know, and
oh my God,
different parts of the formation. And
oh yeah,
parade rest, lock head nods forward, listen to the drill sergeant, and I'm just like, you motherfuckers need to shut the hell up before we get smoked. And next thing you know, the drill sergeant's like, all right, I got something for you. Group attention, left, right, haste, friendly resistance, move. We did 2 push-ups.
Wrecked.
No, we did 2 push-ups, and people were already crying. And he's like, you had enough there, Pride? You had enough? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's just attention. Move. I was like, that's it? Just 2 push-ups? I was like, I thought it was going to be simple, but man, PT was no joke at Fort Jackson. In my experience, like I said, the curriculum is the same everywhere. How that training is delivered by your drill sergeants or cadre, depending on which AIT site you go to, and your mental resiliency and how mentally strong you are is going to drive the train of how you react to it. So you could have somebody who is extremely timid and shy and introverted versus somebody who is like a jock and that plays sports and very extroverted, are going to have the same exact training but have 2 very different experiences, where the jock, as far as the physical aspect of it, maybe even the mental challenges, are going to be like, man, that was a walk in the park. But Johnny Snotnose over here, you know, who was extremely introverted, shy, and didn't like to sound off and, you know, whatnot, is going to be like, man, that was the most challenging experience of my life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that is streamlined across the community. Like there might be some things that are worse than others. Like you might have a really bad land nav course, but your PT might not be bad. Whereas some installations or other classes are PTing on sand in the middle of the day in the Georgia heat, and you're just scorching. But their land nav course was done at night, so it's 30 degrees cooler. So there's so much different stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I remember waking up one night in the field and we had sergeants that were reclassing that were our quote unquote platoon sergeants. And there were just happened to be 4 of them. And I remember him and I woke up at the same time one night. I reached for my whoopee. I was shaking in Georgia in the middle of the summer. I was like, Sergeant, we are about to get hypothermia. It's freezing out here. And him and I, because it was hot out during the day, we were sleeping on our IOTVs. And rule number 1, guys, and they'll teach you this when you get to your unit, you want to put space between you and the ground. Do not sleep directly on the ground if you can help it. If it's really hot out, it's fine. It might actually cool you off a little bit. But the ground and any sort of decently cold environment will suck the heat right out of you. That's why they give you pads to sleep on. It's not about being comfortable. It's about preventing you from dying so you can get up and fight the next day. There's a tactical thing to it. The Army doesn't really care if you're comfortable or not. So get that out of your head right now. Yep. Yeah, the tactical pad. But yep, you can freeze your ass off in Georgia. It's a thing.
And it'll be like 70, 80 degrees, but because there was like a 20-degree decrease in temperature, it's going to shock your system, feeling like it's in the 60s. It's insane.
Yeah. And then you get wet and it's even worse.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So any tips for anyone who's about to go down to basic training? What would you tell someone?
Everything bad that you have heard, any stories that are esoteric, some crazy things that are freaking you out, any anxiety that you have, put it out the window. Everybody thinks they know what happened. And I can tell you, I was one of those dudes like, oh my God, like, what do I do? What's going to happen? Like, and I beat it until I was blue in the face. And you know what? It didn't make any difference because when I got there, it was going to happen one way or the other. And there was nothing more I could do to prepare myself. And something you're just not going to learn. There's some things people just aren't going to tell you. And you go through it, much like the rest of us have gone through it. And just go in, relax, stay motivated, be disciplined, look out for each other. And they're going to tell you, hey, you're not there to make friends. And that's true. You're there to be trained. However, at the end of the night, it's just you and your battle buddies. In the morning information, it's you and your battle buddies. When you forget something, you're going to forget something because you're tired and you're sick of everything. They're going to be there to help you out. Look out for one another. Watch your battle buddies 6. Whether you're in reception, then you get split up, which might be the case. Make sure you get with a good group of people that you befriend or that you're deciding to train with and kind of go through the process with. Don't be around shitbags because they will drive you into the ground, and I guarantee you they might not even graduate basic training. There was the attrition rate in my basic training and infantry. It was astonishing how many people they got rid of. I could not believe it. I thought everyone passed. No, absolutely not. And I'll tell you guys right now, working for the military, being prior service and doing what I'm doing now, the United States military is an all-volunteer force, meaning we train our soldiers so well and we spend more money per capita that we don't need billions and billions of people on the ground. We need quality, not quantity. And that's really what it comes down to. The military wants quality soldiers that are going to continue to drive the force and the military in the right direction. Be one extra soldier in the right group of people. Do not be the one that's going to be getting kicked out 6 months after he graduates, because no one wants to do all those push-ups and get just smoke checked every day and not have it be worth it. Make it worth it. Make something of itself. Learn as much as you can, suck in as much knowledge as you can, and you will learn a lot about yourself, what breaks you, what you can push through, and you're going to come out a better person. Pay attention to what drives you too in those situations when you're hurting the most. What helps you get through that situation? Because when you go back to the civilian world or over to active duty, you're going to need that. So pay attention to how your body reacts to certain situations, try different things, push through, talk to other people, see what works for them. And again, I'm going to harp on it again, win and fight as a team. And when things go south, just take it like a champ. And we've all been through it. It's we're no different, and it's just a part of it. And you'll be laughing about it once you're done. Trust me, it makes for good stories. When you get around your buddies, you're not laughing about the good times. All the stories and jokes, they come from all the crappy times. It's that's what the trend's really about. So it's all worth it. It's always worth it in the end, 100%. If there's one thing to take away from anything that I've said, it is always worth it in the end once you're done. When you graduate and walk across the parade field, you did something that most of the civilian population did not do. And no one can take that away from you for the rest of your life. You decided to serve, no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent, how much you decide to serve, at what capacity. You did the training, you did the push-ups, you deserve to wear that uniform that day and earn the dog tag that you're wearing around your neck. So you have that to look forward to.
And I got one more thing to add before we wrap things up here is if you find yourself at basic training and you're at that moment where you're going to ask yourself, because we all have that moment where we ask ourselves, what the hell did I get myself into? Because you're about to find Jesus. And
the come to Jesus moment.
Exactly. So understand this, that you are in a training environment. And this is actually like a double-edged sword, depending on your mind state or mindset at this time. So on one aspect, you're probably assuming that the rest of your military career is a bunch of superiors screaming and yelling, hooting and hollering, and doing crazy PT for corrective training for days on end. And like, this sounds miserable, or this is miserable because that's what you're currently experiencing. That is not the case. Okay. This is kind of like, for a lack of a better term, consider this like an initiation, right? You just have to endure it and survive basic training. Once you're out of basic training, get to AIT, then it's going to get a little bit more lax. You can still get dusted off if you mess up. Don't get it twisted. But it's going to be more relaxed. And the further you get into basic training, the easier it becomes, because you are getting stronger every single day, mentally and physically, okay? In the beginning, you're like, you wish that you're never getting smoked. By the end of basic training, you will do things on purpose for fun to get smoked, or corrective training for your drill sergeant, just for that extra PT, because you're bored. You want to break up the monotony, whatever the case. Other aspect of that too is you may actually embrace and love basic training, or being in a training environment, having something to do every day and something that's exciting. And then when you do get to your active duty unit or guard unit, you're going to find out that it's a lot more chill and relaxed, not as hyped and high speed and entertaining or what have you. And then you're going to feel like you're de-escalating, right? And it's not as enjoyable. So take it with a grain of salt. Understand that the training environment is a training environment. And when you're in a training environment like basic training, we want morale to be high. So yes, you're going to be doing things to boost morale and camaraderie and that rapport and all that good stuff, right? So you're going to be doing things to get you pumped up, hyped up, singing cadences, right? Even when you're just sitting there waiting for chow, you know, marching in place, sounding off the cadence as loud as you can so you can outdo the platoon next to you, so on and so forth. The rest of the Army is not going to be like that in most cases, right? But you as a leader can develop that atmosphere and influence people to be like you, and to do that as well on your end, what you can control, right? So break the trend and do all that good stuff. So I appreciate you all coming on here tonight. Do you have any last words, Sergeant Cento?
No, guys, whatever you decide to do, doesn't matter. Just do it 100%. Give it 100%. Your next employer, your next relationship, friendship, you will benefit from that. Have a strong work ethic. Be disciplined. Be motivated. Sometimes motivation will fail, and you can fall back on discipline. And don't forget that along the way, you will have good and bad that will happen to you. That's just a part of life. And just see things for what they are. Work hard. Be dedicated. If you decide to serve the country in whatever capacity you do it at 100%. Like Sergeant Swartz said, it's not about you. It's about the person to your left and right. And especially if you're going infantry, when it comes down to it, you're not shooting or firing your weapon for you. You're doing it to be the most effective shooter you can so that the person to your left and right to you can go home. And when you hang your hat up at the end of the day and you take off the uniform, that does not allow you the right to just do whatever. You are still a part of the military. You are still a representative of what that uniform signifies. So be conscious of that when you're the way you carry yourself, and also your skill set, your medical training, your whatever the case is, your computer training, whatever MOS you decide to pick, bring that in your civilian life. Help others, make life better. And I'll never forget it. A woman tripped in New York going down the subway steps, split her head open. I was running a class. I was late for an exam. And I just got done doing my like CLS stuff. And I'm like, this woman's going to bleed out. This is icy out. And yeah, there was cops all over the place in New York. Flag a cop over, comes over, but you do what you're trained to do. And there's going to be a time, guys, odds are that you're going to have to put your training to use in your civilian life, potentially. And same thing with Mensa. Talk about selfless service. One of the biggest things in the military. Gave up his life so that other people could live. And it might not ever come to that extreme for you, but whatever capacity it is, just full tilt, 100%. And whatever you do, don't quit. If you don't quit and you don't give up, you will never know how to. Just take that out of your vocabulary right now. And go forth and conquer, guys. If you need anything, Sergeant Swartz, you can link my information below or in the box. I'm more than happy to help any of you guys out. You can email me, call me. Like I said, I've had help to get to where I'm at. I still need help to get to where I want to go. And I'm willing to do the same for other people. And there might come a time where you guys, I meet someone on here and you get ahead of me, and that's where I want to be. And I'm going to need you to help me out. And my mentor, I became an E5 before he made E5. Go figure. Sheer luck. But I never forgot where I came from. So don't ever forget where you came from either. Yep. Started from the bottom. Now, who's saying that song? Drake, right? Drake.
Yeah. Started at the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, that's right.
But remember, when you go to basic training and throughout your entire life, have a strong mind and your body will follow. I'm going to take what he said earlier and I'm going to up it a little bit to strive for perfection and settle on excellence. Okay? No matter what you do, always go far and beyond what is expected of you, even when no one's looking, because I guarantee you someone's going to notice your work ethic, and opportunities that you're not necessarily thinking about or you aspire to, apply for at a later date are afforded to those who do more than they're paid, and eventually you'll get paid more than you do. Let me see. I saw one extra comment here. The military is a big brotherhood. It's one of the, 100%. Thank you, Gene Gallagher. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sergeant Cento, for coming on here and sharing some of your wisdom and insights and all that good stuff, hacks, tips, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yes. His IG handle is on the screen right here. I'm going to add it to the description below. Definitely hit him up and all that good stuff. He's done great things so far, and he's about to do even more greater things, right? So, Intel.
We shall see.
See you guys at Intel.
You know what? I did my research, and seeing things from where I'm at in my job now, and being fortunate enough to work with guys all over the place and out of the Pentagon and out of Quantico, and having people all over the country do great things and working with them. Again, I listened to what they had to say, but ultimately I decided to make my own choice. And Intel drives everything, guys. Knowledge is power. It's not just
Oh, no. I disagree with you. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge backed up with massive amount of effort.
Yes.
Is power.
Yeah. The infantry, they used to say, what you can't outthink, overwhelm with brute force. It's kind of going out the window these days. You can really schwack someone from a computer across the world. So we got to adapt, guys. Adapt with your environment.
That's true. That's true.
If you guys need anything, hit me up. Definitely slide in my DMs. I'll answer all of them. Biggest thing is, guys, I'm just a normal dude like everyone else. Just because I'm at where I'm at, or I did the pipeline that I did, I'm just a normal guy, and that's why I wanted to come on here and reach out and speak to everybody. Is you don't have to listen to some esoteric figure that has this crazy life or has this crazy wealth, and you don't have to come from a crazy background. It's just hard work and dedication. And whatever you guys need, hit me up, DM me, and I'll give you the best possible answer. And if I can't answer it, I will find someone in my professional or military life that can give you the right answer.
There you go. There you have it. This is Team SWARTZ signing out from Always on Guard here at Team SWARTZ. I think I say that a lot. But anyway, y'all have a good night. Stay blessed. Be good. Get ready for basic training. If you're in New York and you want to join, hit me up. See you then. Thank you all. Have a good night.